Charges are pending against one man in relation to an assault and an attempted sexual assault that occurred last night. At approximately 10:45 p.m. on Tuesday, July 4th, 2017, a woman was walking through Riley Park with two friends where an unknown man approached her and asked to speak with her. When the man got the woman away from her friends, he pushed her to the ground and attempted to sexually assault her, ripping her clothes in the process. The woman was able to fight the man off and alert her friends to the attack. The group confronted the man, at which point he fled and one of the woman's friends chased after him. A Good Samaritan who was entering Riley Park saw the occurrence and stopped the offender. At that time, the offender tried to flee a second time. He was caught a short distance away by the Good Samaritan and the victim's friend, and a struggle ensued. The two men were able to subdue the offender until police arrived. The Good Samaritan was assaulted in the process of restraining the offender and received minor injuries. Officers from District 3 arrived on scene and took the suspect into custody without incident. He was interviewed by detectives in the Sex Crimes Unit and remains in custody while waiting to see a justice of the peace. His name will be released once charges are formally laid.
So Bruce, can you just maybe expand a little bit more on how the culprit was able to kind of separate the woman from her friends? How did that happen?
Well, as part of the investigation, I don't want to get into too many details as to why or how that happened. Either way, the individual was able to get her away from her friends, and that's when the assault occurred.
Is the accused known to police?
At this time, he's not known to police.
Maybe just talk about, in these types of circumstances, the Good Samaritan just have to be entering into the area. I mean, there's always that kind of decision of when someone should intervene in a particular attack, whether they should call the police. Maybe just talk about the Good Samaritan's actions and what happened.
Absolutely. I believe that by the actions taken, certainly prevented further trauma to the victim. We always like to err on the side of caution that any opportunity to phone the police right away, dialing 911 would be the appropriate course of action to get police into the area to deal with matters such as this.
So you mentioned the Good Samaritan was injured in, I guess, the struggle. I'm guessing it was just bumps and bruises, scrapes, kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't want to get into specifics of the exact injuries. It's still part of the investigation, but he did receive minor injuries as a result of his actions.
And did he, I guess, restrain the accused until police showed up?
That's correct. During the altercation, we'll say they were able to subdue the offender until the police arrived and took him into custody.
So the victim was with two other friends?
That's correct.
And were they both men, or one was a woman and one was a man?
I believe both were males. Oh,
I think one might be a woman.
sorry, so don't quote me on that.
No problem. Can you say, I know that it's still part of the investigation, but like how far away he was able to get the woman from her friends? Like, I'm trying to paint a picture of like the kind of the scene. Do you know how far away it was?
As part of the investigation, I wouldn't give the exact distance. In saying that, obviously at night it's quite dark in the park, and it was a long enough distance to get her away where the assault was able to occur.
You call him a Good Samaritan. What do you mean by that? How material was his assistance?
Well, I believe it was quite material. I believe that by his actions that he prevented further trauma to the victim. Again, in saying that, we always err on the side of caution. People may possess weapons. Any opportunity to initially call the police right away would be the ideal course of action for safety reasons.
But without him, would it have been a different outcome, do you think?
I don't want to get into hypotheticals or speculation, but certainly further trauma was prevented to the victim, in my opinion.
And in terms of that area, Riley Park, how does that stack up in the police hotspots? Is it something that's a fairly safe area, or have you been called to that geographic location more than you like?
In my role, I wouldn't be able to have specific stats as to whether there's a high crime rate or what type of offenses or what type of behaviors that are going on in the park at that time.
Do you have an idea of how long this entire ordeal lasted? Was it really quick between the time that the man got the woman away from her friends and then the Good Samaritan was able to apprehend him, or how long was the entire ordeal?
I don't know the exact time frame. I'm sure if you were to ask the victim and probably those involved in the altercation, it probably seemed quite long. But the exact how many minutes it took, it's kind of hard to speculate.
This is a good warning since Stampede's coming up and a lot more people are going to be out in the night, and basically if someone intoxicated and stuff like that, so this is a good reminder to people to be vigilant.
I think it's always important to be situationally aware of your surroundings. Anytime you're walking through anywhere, whether it's a park, down the sidewalk, you just don't know, right? You always have to have your wits about you.
Anything else?
How's the victim doing now?
Based on obviously what she's been through, we front load any investigation with a lot of support through our community partners with CASA and CSART, and she's doing as well as can be expected at this time.
Excuse me. For side. Chuck, would you mind repeating that last answer, just saying how the victim's doing?
Just based on this type of offense, we front load the investigation with a lot of support from our community partners with CASA and CSART, and that she's doing as well as can be expected for what she went through.
Was the attacker, did it appear to be either intoxicated or drugs or alcohol considered a factor in this attack?
As part of the investigation, I wouldn't be able to release that information. But at this time, I can say that for the reasoning behind the attack, there's no known reason at this time.
Sorry, if you said this, is this targeted or is this random?
I would categorize this as random. Yep.
And sorry, I know that Jordan asked this earlier and I might have missed it. How long was the whole episode? I'm sorry.
I don't have the exact time frame. I'm saying if you were to speak to those involved in the altercation, it probably would seem like an eternity, quite a long time. But in saying that, I don't have the exact time frame of start to finish.